Welcome to The Explainer. So today we're tackling a huge name in tech, Microsoft Azure. We're going to break down this massive platform and make it all make sense. All right, let's kick things off with a question. You ever stop and wonder how your favorite apps, the ones you use every day, or your go-to streaming services, how they actually work? It all feels a bit like magic, right? But it's all running on some very real, very powerful computers somewhere out there. Well, the answer to that really boils down to this one big idea: cloud computing. And the simplest way to think about it is this. Instead of you owning a bunch of super powerful computers, you're just renting them. You're using someone else's. It's way more flexible, it can scale up or down, and it's pretty much what powers everything we do online these days. And that, right there, brings us to Azure. Microsoft Azure is one of the biggest players in the game. It's a gigantic, always growing collection of these cloud services that lets anyone, from a single developer to a giant company, build and run their stuff on Microsoft's incredible global network. Okay, let's get into it. The best way to wrap your head around Azure is to picture it as a massive box of digital Legos, or building blocks. So let's start with the most essential ones, the foundation of pretty much any digital project. To really make this stick, let's use an analogy. Imagine you're building a house. You can't just, throw up some walls and call it a day, right? Nope. You need the essentials first. You need the land to build on, a solid foundation so it doesn't fall over, and roads so people can actually get to it. In the digital world, it works pretty much the same way. So these are the three absolute cornerstones for any app in the cloud. First up, you've got compute. This is your engine room. It's what actually runs your code. Think of services like virtual machines. They're basically powerful computers you rent in the cloud. Then, of course, you need storage. This is your warehouse. A place like Azure Blob Storage holds all your data. We're talking everything from user profiles to massive video files. And finally, none of this works without networking. This is the plumbing, the roads. It connects everything together and hooks it up to the internet. Okay, so having a solid foundation is great, but let's be honest, modern apps are way more than that, right? They're smart, they're driven by data, they're interactive. So let's level up and look at the smart blocks that Azure gives you to play with. Yeah, those basic blocks are absolutely crucial, but the real magic, the thing that makes an app feel modern, that happens when you start layering on intelligence. We all expect our apps to be fast, to be personalized, to be smart. And that means they have to handle just massive amounts of data and, more importantly, learn from it as it's happening. And this is where Azure's data tools really shine. For your neat, organized kind of spreadsheet-like data, you've got your classic databases, like Azure SQL. But for the messy, unpredictable stuff, think social media feeds or gaming data, you need something more flexible. And that's where NoSQL databases, like Cosmos DB, come in. And then, to actually make sense of all this data rushing in, that's what analytics tools are for. Something like Stream Analytics can spot trends and patterns in real time. But if we're talking about the most powerful, maybe the most game-changing block in this whole digital toolbox, it has to be artificial intelligence. This is really what separates a basic app from an intelligent one. And here's the coolest part. You don't have to be an AI genius to build this stuff from scratch. Azure hands you these incredible pre-built AI services. We're talking about giving your app the ability to understand what people are typing, to recognize faces in photos, to power a smart chatbot. You can even tap into the same kind of mind-blowing models that power ChatGPT through the Azure OpenAI service. It's just unbelievably powerful stuff. So we've got all these amazing blocks, right? The foundational ones, the smart ones, but how do developers actually, snap them all together? And maybe just as important, once an app is built, how do you keep it running well? That's where we get to the developers workshop. The answer is something called DevOps. It sounds kind of technical, but the idea is simple. It's all about bringing the development side, the people who build the app, and the operations side, the people who keep it running, together. The whole goal is to get great software out the door faster and more reliably. And of course, Azure has tools for this entire process, this whole loop. It kicks off with planning everything out in Azure boards. Then the developers get to coding. After that, Azure Pipelines jumps in and automates all the building and testing, which is huge for catching bugs early. And finally, once the app is out in the wild, Azure Monitor is like a hawk, watching its health and performance. See, it's a continuous cycle, all designed for speed and quality. Right, because building the app is really only half the battle. The moment it goes live, you've got a whole new set of things to worry about. You've got to protect it from hackers, keep your costs from spiraling out of control, and make sure you're following all the right rules. And yeah, you guessed it, Azure has this covered. You've got Microsoft Defender for Cloud to handle security. You have Azure Policy for governance, so you can set rules and make sure everyone follows them. For cost, there's cost management to help you keep an eye on your spending. And the best part, it's all managed from one central command center, a website called the Microsoft Azure Portal. Okay, wow, we have covered a lot of ground. We've gone from the basic building blocks all the way up to AI and the tools to manage it all. So let's just take one last step back and look at the big picture. Why? Why does any of this actually matter? If you look at how Microsoft themselves talk about it, the key words they use aren't renting servers. The words are building and managing. And that's a huge clue. Azure isn't just a utility, it's designed to be a complete platform for creation. And honestly, that is the most important thing to take away from all this. What Azure does is it levels the playing field. It's this enormous, super flexible digital toolbox that gives anyone, from a lone coder in their garage to a massive global company, access to the kind of power and crazy advanced tools that used to be only for the biggest tech giants in the world. And that really brings us to what's next. I mean, when the barriers to create something new are this low and the tools are this powerful, the potential for what we can do, it's practically limitless. It really leaves us with just one question. With this incredible power at our fingertips, what are we going to build next?